Cheating is awful, yes, in the act itself, but also the fact that he had to find someone, see that they're attractive, reach out to them, start flirting with them, lie constantly, coordinate seeing them, and then actually doing the deed and all the process of that. And I say that to really hammer in if you are trying to take back some dusty ass man that you shouldn't take back, because those are multiple decisions that he made out of the expense for you. Because he knows damn well if you found out about any of these things, you would be hurt. But he didn't care because he was choosing himself out of his own selfishness versus you. Now, I also, based on is he a cheater versus cheated, is people have cheated. Everyone has cheated at some point. Yes, I have cheated as well. Am I proud of it? Hell no, I'm not proud of it. It angers me because I come from a womanizer background of my father, of my grandfather, and the man before him. I'm Puerto Rican, for Christ's sake. We already get a bad enough rap. So that weighs on me in terms of that action that I've done. And I hurt someone in the process. And it hurt me because I felt so awful because of it. Now, it's a moment that could happen based on you not being responsible enough to communicate your issues. Because a lot of the times, say if someone cheats, man or woman, it doesn't matter. They say, "Well, you don't communicate to me enough. You don't talk to me enough. You don't engage with me enough. You don't, whatever enough." And there's always some reasoning that leads up to it, but that easily could have been discussed and it could have been ended. But you were just too scared to have the communication, so it just turned out into this thing, right? So again, it always comes down to, is this a weak moment? And then maybe this is something we could work on potentially? Or is this a chronic habit that you have without remorse? Because if you have someone that is a consistent cheater, this is something they normalize as normal. Normalize as normal, that's a word. It's something they normalize as just a function that they have. And they're willing to put themselves in delusion. They're willing to consistently play as the victim and consistently make them out to be the good guy, even based on this awful decision. And that's so much deep psychological turmoil that shouldn't have to deal with. You shouldn't have to receive. You shouldn't have to normalize for yourself. A cheater who is trying to change is going to take way longer than someone who had a moment to be cheated. And I'm sure someone's listening to me that has cheated before and they felt awful and they would never want to do it again. And it was such a singular moment and they're not proud of it. And it's going to be a blip on their resume forever. That sense of shame, that sense of guilt says a lot about who that person is. The other person who's a chronic cheater that's where we kind of get into narcissism territory. And I use that word lightly. You notice through all my content on my podcast, Eli never uses the narcissist word. Never, because it's so easily thrown around. But if someone could normalize such awful action and still play the blame game, that says everything about their psychological concern. And I really want to hit on that fact because a lot of the times why you're probably even listening to this podcast, you're trying to figure out why they do what they do. Where does it come from? But I'll say this right now. Even if I told you all the answers, does it still make you feel safe? Even if I told you exactly why he cheated, will it change or make any difference in terms of your own well-being, your own self-worth, your own security in yourself and with this man? No, it wouldn't, because he still did a disrespectful action that totally derails the trust in the relationship.
The Self-Hype Podcast. The Self-Hype Podcast.